Tonight, I'm doing what's best for my vision, Marcus said, his voice steady, but the weight of his words heavy in the air. The room fell silent as his gaze shifted toward Ala, seated quietly in the back, her sapphire gown glowing under the chandeliers. What followed would change everything. In front of the city's elite, Marcus made the announcement he was divorcing his wife. The crowd gasped, their eyes wide with disbelief, waiting for the expected tears or anger. But the woman he had underestimated for years did nothing. She didn't cry. She didn't collapse. Instead, she gave him a smile, a calm, knowing smile that told a completely different story. What no one knew was that this was just the beginning of her story, the story of betrayal, of a woman reclaiming her voice, her art, and her power. Stay with us to find out how turned the tables on Marcus and why her next move will leave you speechless. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Share your thoughts in the comments and let us know where you're fixed in it, tuning in from today. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. The Grand Ballroom of New York's Waldorf. His story shimmered under a constellation of crystal chandeliers, their light dancing across sequined gowns and tailored tuxedos. The air buzzed with the clink of champagne flutes, the murmur of elite conversation, and the electric anticipation of the city's most prestigious art charity gala. At the center stood Marcus, satiety, his lean frame clad in a bespoke black suit that screamed power. His smile was a practice blade, sharp and disarming, but his eyes betrayed a restless flicker, darting toward a silver-haired man in the VIP section. Sterling, the investor, whose nod could catapult Marcus's gallery to global heights or bury it in obscurity. Marcus adjusted his cufflinks, feeling the weight of Sterling's gaze. He was no longer the scrappy upstart who charmed his way into the art world. He was a king, but one whose crown felt precariously balanced. Sterling, known for backing only those with flawless personal brands, held the key to a multi-million-dollar partnership that could redefine Marcus's legacy. But his image, a devoted husband to the understated Ara, was a chain. She was too quiet, too unassuming, not the dazzling partner Sterling would expect of a titan. Tonight, Marcus would sever that chain in a way that would make headlines and win Sterling's respect. On stage, the LED backdrop blazed with his gallery's logo, a sleek monogram of sophistication. Marcus stepped to the podium, his voice smooth as velvet, commanding the room. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, we celebrate art, generosity, and the visionaries who make it possible. The crowd erupted in applause, their faces glowing with admiration. He paused, letting the moment swell, then turned his gaze to a table near the back where sat. Her sapphire gown hugged her frame with quiet elegance, her dark curls cascading softly, her eyes steady but unreadable. She was a portrait of grace, but to Marcus, a relic of his past, a weight holding him back from the stars. I owe so much to the woman who stood by me from the beginning, he said, his tone softening, theatrical. The crowd leaned in, expecting gratitude. Ara has been my anchor, my support through every triumph. He paused, his smile tightening, eyes flicking to Sterling. But to reach the stars, one must shed what tethers them to the earth. With deep respect, I announced that Aller and I will part ways. Our paths diverge, but our mutual admiration remains. The room froze. Gasps sliced through the silence, followed by whispers. Cameras flashed like gunfire, their lenses swiveling to Ara. Marcus stood taller, his chest swelling with the gamble he'd played. He'd framed himself as the decisive, visionary, sacrificing love for ambition. a narrative he knew Sterling would eat up. But as he glanced at Ara, a chill crept up his spine. Ara didn't flinch. She didn't cry or shrink. Her chin lifted, her eyes locking onto his sharp as a blad's edge. In that moment, Marcus saw not the quiet wife he dismissed, but a woman who saw through him, through the performance, the desperation, the petty insecurities driving him. Her lips curved into a smile, subtle, almost pitying, as if watching a child play a game he couldn't win. The crowd held its breath, mesmerized by her composure. She rose, her gown whispering against the floor, and walked toward the exit. Each step, deliberate, her silhouette carving a path through the stunned onlookers. Sterling, from his VIP perch, arched a brow, his gaze lingering on her retreating figure. Not Marcus. In the dimly lit hallway, paused, her fingers tightening around the thin gold band on her left hand. Pain hit like a wave, rough and jagged, pulling her back to nights when Marcus called her his muse, his fire. She believed in him, poured her heart into his dreams, only to be cast aside as a prop in his latest act. Her breath hitched, but she forced it steady. Her eyes hardening, she slipped the ring into her clutch, the metal cold against her skin. "You want a performance, Marcus," she whispered to the empty quarter. "I'll give you one. The world won't forget." The galas then faded as she stepped into the cool night air, the city's pulse thrumming beneath her feet. Inside, Marcus basted in the chaos he'd ignited, certain he'd won. Sterling's admiration. He didn't see the shift in the investor's expression, the flicker of doubt as Sterling watched R's exit, nor did he sense the storm brewing in her silence, the spark of a woman underestimated for the last time. R's smile, that fleeting enigmatic curve, wasn't surrender. It was the opening note of a reckoning. As she vanished into the Manhattan night, her resolve settled like a promise. Marcus had chosen the wrong stage and the wrong opponent. The night air clung to Aller's skin as she stepped from the taxi, her heels clicking against the gravel path of her suburban retreat. The city's glow faded, replaced by the hum of crickets and the rustle of ivy-draped fences. Her sapphire gown caught the moonlight, stark against the modest house ahead, its windows dark, save for a flicker in the back. She bypassed the front door, drawn to the old shed in the garden shadows. Her fingers brushed the weathered wood, finding the hidden scanner. A soft beep, a flash of green as her fingerprint and iris unlocked the door, and she slipped inside, leaving the world behind. The shed was a cathedral of creation, bathed in soft LED light. White walls stretched high, lined with canvases, pulsing with color, swirls of crimson, cobalt, and gold. Each stroke a cry of identity and truth. Paint cans and brushes lay scattered across a steel table, their chaos contrasting with the artwork's precision. In one corner, a sleek computer hummed, displaying encrypted transactions. Millions wired to anonymous accounts in London, Tokyo, Dubai. Ara was Aura, the street artist whose murals had set the art world ablaze. Her identity, a secret guarded tightly than any vault. Even Marcus, with his boasts of discovering genius, had no idea. The genius he sought lived under his roof. She moved to a small canvas, its edges worn, its color softer. It was a portrait of Marcus painted in the feverish days of their love, when his eyes sparkled with dreams and his laughter filled her world. Her fingers traced his face, the memory ablaze, his voice calling her my fire, his promises of a shared empire. A tear slipped down her cheek, unbidden, and she hated it, hated the ache for a man who'd cast her aside. She stepped back, her breath shuddering, and slid the painting into a shadowed nook. "That fire is mine now," she whispered, her voice stale over velvet. Her gaze shifted to the computer where an email blinked. Miss Lara, do you know the artist called Aura? Rumors place her in New York. The sender was anonymous, but the implication was clear. The art world was closing in. She deleted it with a flick, a smirk, curling her lips. Let them hunt. Invisibility was power. She opened the drawer, pulling out a black notebook filled with sketches and coded notes. Her plan to reclaim what Marcus had stolen. Her voice, her art, her worth. Her hands found a spray paint can. Its weight grounding, the hiss, filled the air as she tested it on a scrap canvas. The crimson streak of promise. Her mind replayed the gala. Marcus's betrayal. His eyes on Sterling. His voice dripping ambition. He thought he'd humiliated her, but he'd handed her the stage. She'd seen doubt in Sterling's eyes as she walked out. The crowd's gaze on her, not him. Marcus chased the crown he didn't deserve, and she'd make him feel it slip. Her phone buzzed. Marcus, Art World, Titan, announces divorce in bold gala speech. The headline was, Pure Marcus, Calculated, Grandiose. She scrolled, her lips tightening at his quote, Ara was my support, but my vision demands freedom. Freedom. The word stung Ali. Marcus was chained to his insecurities, to Sterling's approval, to a world that would turn on him. She set the phone down, her resolve hardening. Like drying paint, Ara turned to a blank canvas, its wide expanse. A challenge. She grabbed a brush, dipping it into indigo, and began to paint a woman breaking free from chains, her silhouette ablaze against stars. Each stroke was a release of the pain that had clawed at her in the gala's hallway. She wasn't the broken wife Marcus wanted the world to see. She was Aura, and Aura didn't bend. The painting grew fierce, a mirror of the storm inside her. As dawn crept through the skylight, Ara stepped back, her hands stained, her heart steady. The portrait of Marcus was buried in the shadows of her past. The anonymous email, the whispers of Aura's identity, they were sparks she'd fanned into a blaze. Marcus had lit the match with his betrayal, but she'd controlled the fire. She closed the notebook, her fingers lingering on its leather cover. You wanted the stars, Marcus, she said, softly, her voice a vow. But I'm the one who will burn bright. The Manhattan skyline glittered beyond Marcus's penthouse office, but his eyes were fixed on the tablet, its screen blazing, with a headline that twisted his gut. At Titan, Marcus spins. Divorce is sacrificed for vision. He tossed it onto his desk, the clatter echoing in the sleek, sterile room. The article painted him as a tragic hero, as his PR team had scripted, but the comments were a battlefield, half praising his boldness, half questioning his callousness. Marcus felt the weight of his gamble. Sterling hadn't called since the gala, and the silence was louder than applause. He needed a spectacle to cement his legacy. And Aura, the elusive street artist whose murals were setting the world ablaze, was his golden ticket. He leaned back in his leather chair, fingers drumming the glass desk. Aura's latest work had appeared overnight. A sprawling mural on a Broadway theater's wall. A cascade of melting mass in crimson and gold, with truth wears no disguise scrolled in bold. The art world was obsessed, and Marcus had spent weeks boasting to Sterling at a private dinner, his voice thick with confidence. She's the future, and I'm the one who will bring her to light. But doubt noted, Aura was a phantom, slipping through every lead. Sterling's interest was waning, and Marcus's crown felt like a noose. His phone buzzed. A text from his assistant. Clara Caldwell's new article is out. It's bad. Marcus' jaw tightened as he opened the link. Caldwell, the art world's ruthless critic, struck again. Marcus Gallery. a hollow facade next to Aura's raw truth. She called his curated works polished but soulless, contrasting them with Aura's rebellion of authenticity. The words burned. Worse, she hinted at rumors tying Aura to New York, maybe someone close to Marcus's circle. His pulse quickened. Was she mocking him? He'd hired a private investigator to hunt Aura, but every trail was a dead end. Sterling would read this, and Marcus felt the news tighten. Across the city stood on a Soho rooftop, the night air sharp against her skin. Below her, latest mural, a labyrinth of fractured mirrors reflecting distorted faces, glimmered under streetlights. She adjusted her hood, the spray paint can in her hand warm from use. Azora she'd painted her defiance, each stroke a jab at Marcus's hypocrisy. Thieves hide in spotlights curled across the mural's base, a whisper of her plan. She'd seen the headlines, Marcus's narrative of sacrifice. He thought he'd buried her, but she was carving her name into the city's skin, and the world was listening. Her phone vibrated. Aura's latest mural sparks debate. Is she calling out Marcus? Aura's lips curved faintly. The murmurs were growing as she'd intended. She'd spent the night in her shed, sketching new murals, each a piece of her puzzle. Marcus's obsession with finding Aura was her leverage. Every boast tightened her trap. She opened her black notebook, page dense with coded notes and timelines. Her next move was in motion. A whisper to a journalist, a clue dropped to a collector. The art world was a chessboard and was playing to win. Marcus paced his polished shoes, clicking on marble. He called his investigator, voice urgent. Find her. I don't care what it takes. Aura is in New York, and I need her before Sterling jumps ship. The investigator muttered about a lead, a woman seen near the murals, but it was vague. Infuriating. Marcus hung up, his mind racing. He'd built an empire on spotting talent, but Aura exposed his limits. Her brilliance made his own feel borrowed, fragile, though he'd never admit it. Aura descended the fire escape, her boots silent on metal. In an alley, she checked her phone. An anonymous email. Aura, your work speaks, but who are you? She deleted it, but the question lingered, revealing herself as Aura meant stepping into a spotlight she'd avoided. Doubt flickered. Would the world's gaze strip her freedom? She pushed it aside, her fingers brushing the spray can in her bag. This wasn't about fame. It was justice. At a late night art event, Marcus faced collectors, his charm strained. A woman in a silver gown asked, "Is it true? Orura's murals are about you. They feel personal." Marcus laughed too loudly, eyes darting, arts open to interpretation. I'm focused on finding her, but the room buzzed with skepticism, and Sterling's absence was a missing limb. Across town, Aura slipped into her shed, the murals echo alive in her veins. She opened her notebook, adding, "Next mural, Brooklyn Bridge. Let him chase shadows." Her heart beat steadily, fueled by a fire Marcus had tried to douse. He wanted the stars, but she'd make him see her blaze. The air in A's shed sanctuary was thick with paint and resolve. The soft hum of jazz weaving through the silence. She sat at her workbench, the laptop's glow casting shadows across her face. Its screen opened to a folder labeled evidence. Emails, sketches, and timestamps glowed in neat rows, proof of her unseen hand in Marcus's empire. Her fingers paused on a file, a photograph of rebirth. Her painting now framed in Marcus's gallery as his discovery. Her jaw tightened, but her eyes burned with purpose. She wasn't fighting for a painting. She was reclaiming her voice, stolen piece by piece over years of quiet devotion. Her mind drifted to a memory. sharp and stinging. She saw herself in a cramped Brooklyn cafe sketching on a napkin, while Marcus, then a dreamer with fire in his eyes, leaned across the table. Alara, this idea for an outdoor exhibit. It's genius, he'd said, scribbling her words into his notebook. But at a glittering launch party, he'd presented it as his own, waving off her suggestion to share credit. Sweetheart, this game's too big for both of us, he'd murmured, his smile patronizing. She'd swallowed her hurt, believing love mattered more than recognition. Now that memory fueled her, each betrayal a brushstroke in her plan. She opened an email from those days. One she'd sent Marcus, a pitch for signing a then unknown sculptor, whose work now anchored his gallery's reputation. He'd replied, great input, love, but let me handle the big stuff. Yet he'd used every word, every strategy, claiming them, R's lips curved in grim satisfaction. She'd saved every exchange, a digital tapestry of his theft. Her discovery of rebirth in his exhibit was the final spark, a painting from her private collection poured from her soul, now paraded as his triumph. She'd contacted a lawyer. Her evidence was airtight. Across town, Marcus paced his penthouse office, the skyline mocking his unraveling control. Clara Caldwell's latest article called his work derivative, a word that cut deep. A collector had pressed him about rebirth's origins. It feels like Aura's style. How'd you find it? He deflected with a laugh, but sweat beaded his brow. His investigator had no leads on Aura, and Sterling's silence was deafening. He slammed his fist on the desk, muttering, I'm the one who makes stars, not her. His phone buzzed. His assistant, collector, asking again about rebirth, says it's too close to Aura's work. Marcus's pulse raced. He'd taken rebirth from Mara's stash in their old studio, assuming she'd never notice. She was a hobbyist, he told himself. Her scribbles, no match for his vision. But doubt crept in. Could Ella know something? He shook his head, dismissing the thought she was too soft, too invisible. He dialed his investigator, barking, dig deeper on Aura. Check. Anyone close to me now. Aura's fingers danced across her laptop, encrypting a new file. A timeline for her next move. She'd planted seeds, murals, whispers, a journalist sniffing around. Tonight, she'd paint on the Brooklyn Bridge, a mural screaming, thieves wear crowns. Each stroke would tighten the noose around Marcus's narrative. Her reflection in a small mirror showed not the wife he dismissed, but a woman forged in fire. Doubt hit her. Could she face the world as Aura? Exposing her heart, she pushed it down, her hand finding a spray can, its weight, a lifeline. Her phone lit up. Marcus vows to unveil Aura at upcoming exhibit. She laughed bitterly. He thought he could claim her soul as his own. She opened her notebook, adding, Bridge mural. Make it undeniable. Her lawyer confirmed Rebirth's ownership, backed by sketches and emails. The trap was set. Dawn broke. Ara's hands, pain-stained, steady. She glanced at the corner where Marcus's portrait lay, faded by betrayal. She loved him once, poured her dreams into his. Now she'd take them back. You thought I was your shadow, she whispered fiercely. But I'm the light you'll never touch. She grabbed her coat, and the city was waiting. Marcus chased a phantom, but Ara was crafting a reckoning, and the art world would see her true colors. Rain streaked the windows of Ara's shed. Sanctuary, the soft patter blending with jazz from a hidden speaker. She sat at her workbench, the laptop's glow illuminating her face, her fingers poised over a draft email to Clara Caldwell, the art world's sharpest critic. The screen showed a sketch of Rebirth, time-stamped long ago beside an email to Marcus. This one's special to me. Don't share it. Her lips pressed. Thin. The betrayal. A fresh wound. The world buzzed with Marcus's boast to unveil Aura at his exhibit, but Ara was steps ahead. Her plan? A tightly wound spring ready to snap. Her phone vibrated. Caldwell's interested. She wants a meeting. Name the place. Ara's pulse quickened, revealing herself as Aura would shatter her arch shield. But it was the only way to bury Marcus's lie. She typed a reply, setting a secret viewing for Caldwell and Sterling. Her fingers hesitated, doubt flickering. Could she bare her soul to the world's scrutiny? She glanced at a mural sketch. A woman breaking chains. Her silhouette. Ablaze. This is for me, she whispered. Hitting send? A sharp knock broke her. Focus. Rain faltered as footsteps crunched outside. The door creaked. And Marcus stood there, his frame hunched against the downpour. His suit sodden. His eyes, once bright with charm, were shadowed with panic. Ayera, he said, his voice strained, mixing pleading and bravado. We need to talk. He stepped inside uninvited, dripping water onto the concrete, his gaze darting as if seeking answers in the shadows. She didn't rise, her hands steady on a bonsai, tiny shears glinting. What's left to say? Marcus. Her tone was calm, cutting. You made your speech. His jaw twitched, and he ran a hand through wet hair, his unraveling composure bare. You're hurt, he said, stepping closer, his voice softening into something rehearsed. The gala was impulsive. Don't do anything rash. Think of what we had. The good days. His eyes searched hers, but a flicker of fear betrayed him as if he sensed the ground shifting. Ara set the shears down, then her gaze cold as the rain. I think about them all the time, she said, low, deliberate, especially the parts you took and called your own. The words landed like a blade, and Marcus flinched, his mask slipping. What's that supposed to mean? He snapped, voice cracking. He stepped closer, his shadow looming. You're not going to ruin me. Alara, you don't have it in you. Her smile was faint, pitying, unnerving him. You've already done that yourself, she said, turning back to her bonsai, dismissing him. Marcus stood frozen, rain pulling at his feet, hands clenching. You don't understand the stakes, he muttered, then stormed out, the door slamming. Calm held until he was gone. Then her hands trembled, the shears slipping. She closed her eyes, his words echoing. The good days. She saw them, night sketching together, his laughter, her dreams woven into his. The ache was real, but so was her resolve. She opened her laptop, confirming the meeting with Caldwell and Sterling. The trap was set. Across town, Marcus slumped in his office. The city's lights, a cruel reminder of his fading star. Caldwell's podcast hinted at explosive revelations about the Rebirth exhibit, and a journalist's tweet is, Marcus's new find, really auras had gone viral. His investigator called voice. Grim. No leads on Aura, but someone's feeding the press. It feels close. Marcus's stomach churned. Ara's words replayed sharp. You took and called your own. Could she know about Rebirth? He dismissed the thought. She was too soft. But doubt gnawed deeper. Ara stood before her mural sketch. The chained woman, half painted, her eyes fierce. She picked up a spray can, its hiss grounding her. Her next mural on the Brooklyn Bridge would scream, thieves wear crowns, a beacon. To draw the art world's gaze, she added to her notebook, Caldwell and Sterling. Show proof. Her evidence was ironclad, Rebirth sketch, emails, and a photo from her studio. She'd revealed the truth of who she'd always been. Rain slowed to a drizzle. R's hands stained with indigo. And resolve, she glanced at the sketchbook on the shelf. A relic of a love gone. The girl who'd drawn those doodles was replaced by a woman who'd built her throne. You thought you could bury me, she whispered fiercely. But I'm the one who will rise. The city slept. Unaware of the storm she was summoning to leave Marcus in its ashes, the Manhattan Gallery pulsed with anticipation, its sleek walls awash in golden light, as the city's elite gathered for Marcus's grandest exhibit. The centerpiece Rebirth hung behind a velvet curtain, its promise of Aura's genius drawing whispers and camera flashes. Marcus stood at the podium in a tailored charcoal suit, his smile, a polished mask, hiding the tremor in his hands. Sterling sat front and center, his silver hair catching the light, his expression unreadable. Marcus' voice boomed, strained but confident. "Tonight, we redefine art," it declared, gesturing to the curtain. "Rebirth is more than a painting. It's the future, and I'm proud to bring it to you." His eyes locked on Sterling, desperate for the nod to secure his empire. The air felt charged. Wrong. His phone buzzed in his pocket, ignored as he launched into his spiel about discovering Rebirth. The crowd leaned in, but murmurs rippled, phones lighting up like fireflies. Marcus pressed on, voice rising. "This is Aura's work, a masterpiece." I unearthed. The lie felt heavy, his gaze flicking to Sterling, now scrolling his phone. Brow furrowed. Marcus's pulse spiked. He signaled for the curtain to drop, revealing Rebirth's swirling colors. A woman breaking free, her silhouette ablaze. The crowd gasped, but not in awe. Their eyes were on their screens. Across town, Aura stood in her shed sanctuary, its walls alive with her creations. The night before, she'd hosted Caldwell and Sterling, the air thick. As she signed Rebirth duplicate with a flourish Aura, she'd laid out her evidence, emails, sketches, a photo of the painting in her studio, her voice steady, burning. "Marcus stole this from me," she'd said, meeting Sterling's gaze. "I'm Aurora." Caldwell's eyes widened, her pen flying, while Sterling's silence spoke of betrayal. Now, watched her phone, a live feed from the gallery, streaming. Her mural on the Brooklyn Bridge, "Thieves Wear Crowns," had gone viral hours ago. Its accusation, undeniable. The gallery screen meant for Marcus's triumph flickered claire. Caldwell's article blazed across it. Marcus, genius or thief? The truth behind Aura's rebirth. Photos of Aura signing the painting. Her evidence, her face, calm, resolute, filled the display. The crowd erupted in whispers. Cameras flashing. Marcus froze, his voice dying. "This is a mistake," he stammered, eyes darting to Sterling, who stood, his face a mask of disgust. The article detailed Aura's proof, her identity as a Marcus's theft. Tweets flooded. Marcus exposed. Aura is Aura. The room spun. Marcus gripping the podium, his empire crumbling. He tried to recover his laugh, forced. "A misunderstanding will clear this up." But murmurs turned to jeers, and Sterling walked out. His footsteps a death knell. Marcus' phone buzzed. His assistant Sterling's pulling out. Lawsuits incoming. He stumbled off the stage. Rebirth, a mockery behind him, echoed. He had once dismissed her as fragile, a shadow trading his brilliance. But now, Marcus could no longer contain the fire she had lit. Aura scrolled through the chaos, unfolding on her phone, her heart hammering yet steady. She had expected triumph, but instead, there was a quiet ache pressing into her chest. She crossed the studio to her finished canvas, the chained woman now free, her eyes fierce beneath a starlit sky. Aura traced the broken shackles with trembling fingers. "This was for you," she whispered to the girl she had once been. The one who had poured her soul into his dreams and been forgotten. Her phone pinged. Caldwell's message lit the screen. "The world knows your aura. They're calling it a revolution." Ilara's smile carried no joy. She had planned every step from the mural's taunt to the unveiling's revelation, but exposure left her raw, stripped of the armor she had worn for years. She opened her notebook, drawing a line through bridge mural, and writing instead, "Prepare for the fallout." Another ping. Marcus Elara, you've ruined me. Let's talk. Her chest tightened, but her finger didn't hesitate. She deleted the email. Resolve and sorrow coiled together inside her. Outside, the rain had finally ceased. The city glowed with her victory. The skyline, a living canvas of possibility, Marcus had once reached for the stars. But he had underestimated her fire. She was no longer only Aura. She was Ara, and she would paint her own future with colors he could never touch. Her sanctuary was heavy with paint and silence. The faint hum of jazz lingered as dawn crept through the skylight. Notifications pulsed across her phone. Articles, tweets, messages. Each one a ripple of the tidal wave she had unleashed. Elara is a headline one news site blared. Her mural "Thieves Wear Crowns" had gone viral. Its crown blazing across the Brooklyn Bridge, searing Marcus' empire into ash. Yet before the canvas of the chained woman, Ora felt no triumph. A stillness, heavy and unrelenting, settled into her chest. Her laptop chimed. Another email. Marcus again. This time, stripped bare of arrogance. Ara, you've destroyed me. I was wrong. Please, I'm begging you. His words bled with desperation, raw but still self-serving. Her fingers hovered over the delete button, trembling not with rage, but with the weight of too many years carried in silence. She reached into a drawer and pulled out a worn sketchbook from their early days. Its pages were filled with her doodles tangled among his notes, a relic of a love she had once believed infinite. Her throat tightened, but she did not open it. Instead, she struck a match and held his email to the flame. The paper curled, blackened, and turned to ash. I forgive you, she whispered, voice steady, but I will not forget. New York buzzed with her revelation. Clara Caldwell's article had ignited a firestorm. Collector demanded refunds. Sterling denounced Marcus publicly. Lawsuits circled like vultures. Once the golden son of the art world, Marcus was now a cautionary tale. His gallery shuddered. His name, toxic. Ara could have reveled in his downfall, but victory felt hollow. She touched the painted woman's eyes defiant. Unyielding, she had won, but at a cost. The girl who had once loved Marcus was gone, buried under years of stolen credit and silent sacrifice. This fight had never been about him. It was about reclaiming herself. Her phone buzzed again. A journalist, can we interview Aura? Your story is inspiring millions. Ara's lips curved faintly, but she did not respond. Fame was never the goal. She had hidden behind Aura to protect the purity of her art. Now, the world's gaze was sharp, relentless. She set the phone aside and picked up a flyer. Instead, an invitation for young artists from Brooklyn's toughest neighborhoods. Today, she would open her shed. Not as a spectacle, but as a teacher. The door creaked, and students filed in with wide, uncertain eyes. A teenage girl in paint-splattered jeans clutched a sketchbook to her chest. You're really Aura, she asked, voice trembling. Ara knelt to meet her gaze. I am, but I'm also just a woman who paints what she feels. She led them through the space, pointing to murals, explaining mass and meaning, the true value of voice. When a boy asked why she had hidden her identity, Ara paused. Her voice softened. My art was my voice. I didn't need the world to know my name to hear it. But sometimes you step into the light to show others they can too. The students listened, rapt. She handed them brushes, guiding them to a blank canvas. Their strokes began tentative, then grew bold. Colors clashing, shaping, daring. Ara watched, her heart swelling. The stillness inside her finally began to lift. This was why she had fought, not for revenge, for this moment, where her pain became a path for others. The candle flame burned steady on the shelf. Marcus's letter was ash. Forgiveness had set her free. Her phone chimed again with a forwarded article. Marcus faces bankruptcy as art world turns to Ara. Ara didn't read it. His fall was his alone, and she was done carrying his weight. Instead, she joined the students, her brush sweeping in fluid strokes across the canvas. The girl in jeans glanced up, eyes bright. "Does it hurt?" she asked softly. Bangzo open, Ara's brush paused. Her voice was raw, unshielded. "Sometimes, but pain is part of the palette. It makes the colors brighter." The girl nodded, courage flickering into her hand as her brush moved with renewed strength. The sun rose higher, spilling gold through the shed's windows. The city outside sprawled vast and alive, its skyline waiting like a blank canvas. Ara smiled faintly, her heart steady. Marcus had once craved the stars. She had built her own constellations, and now she was ready to step fully into the light. The sun dipped low over Manhattan, its rays painting the city in fire and gold. Ilara stood high on a scaffold, her hands streaked with crimson and cobalt, curls tied back with a scarf speckled in paint. Below, a crowd gathered, their faces lifted, drawn to the vision she and her students were creating. The mural was bold and unapologetic, a woman forging her crown from brushes and spray cans, her silhouette radiant against a storm of color. At its base, words, curled wide and proud. "Build your throne." Each letter, a call to rise, to reclaim, to create. What had once been Ara's secret shed was now the beating heart of the Ara Creative Fund, a non-profit giving young artists from forgotten corners the tools to lift themselves. A year had passed since Marcus's collapse. His name was no longer golden, but a whispered warning in gallery halls. His empire was dust. Ara hadn't followed his descent. She had been busy building something new. The fund had transformed her hidden sanctuary into a bustling studio, its walls alive with the work of teenagers who had once believed their voices carried no weight. Today was their first public mark on the city, and the wall they painted was more than brick. It was a mirror of possibility. Ara dipped her brush into crimson and guided the hand of Laya, 15 years old. Paint splattered across her jeans, a spark burning in her eyes. "Make it bold," Ara said, her tone warm but firm. "Let it scream who you are." Laya's brush swept wide, adding a flare to the crown's edge. The crowd murmured in awe. Phones raised to capture what they were witnessing. Ara's chest tightened, not with pride, but with purpose. This was her legacy. Not headlines or acclaim, but hands stained with color. Futures unbound. Laya paused, her voice quiet, as she asked, "Do you ever get sad after everything?" The question pierced Ara's armor. She set her brush down, her eyes on the mural's glowing figure. "Sometimes," she admitted, voice unguarded. "Sadness is like dark paint on a canvas. It's always there, but it makes the bright colors shine even stronger." Laya noted, her eyes glistening, and her strokes grew fiercer, each one louder than the last. Ara watched, her throat tight, her heart aching with something closer to hope than grief. She had fought for this not to destroy Marcus, but to create something he could never take. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Caldwell again. "The mural's trending. You're changing the game." Ara slipped the phone away. The world's love for Ara was a double-edged sword. Adoration brought scrutiny, and she sometimes longed for her old anonymity. But she had chosen this path to show others they could rise. The fund had already launched exhibitions. Works by her students now hung in galleries, once chasing Marcus's empty promises. Ara's name had become a beacon. Her story, once buried, was now a spark, lighting the way for others unseen. A memory flickered the dim light of Marcus's studio, his voice calling her muse. She had believed him, had poured her soul into his dreams, only to vanish beneath his shadow. The ache lingered, but it no longer owned her. She had burned his letters, released his hold, and stepped out whole. She was both Ara and Ara, A woman who had built her throne from betrayal's ashes. At the scaffold's edge, a plaque waited, gleaming in the light. Aura Creative Fund. Art is your throne. The crowd swelled, their cheers rising like the hum of the city itself. Ara stepped back, letting Laya and the others lead, their laughter mingling with the city's pulse. A boy, barely 13, sprayed gold onto the mural's crown, his grin wide. "This is ours," he said, joy uncontained. Ara nodded, her chest full. She had given them more than brushes. She had given them power. The world had once tried to dim her. Instead, she had turned their shadows into fire. As the sun dipped, Ara climbed down from the scaffold, her boots landing on solid ground. The crowd surged forward, some asking for photos, others for her story. She smiled softly, deflecting their questions. "The art speaks for itself," she said, gesturing to the wall, blazing with color. Laya tugged gently on her sleeve, offering a sketchbook with trembling hands. "For you," she whispered. Inside, Ara's silhouette was crowned with stars. Ara's breath caught, her eyes misting. "You're the real artist," she told the girl, pulling her into an embrace. The city glowed around them, its pulse, a rhythm Ara had finally learned to dance to. She turned to the mural, its crown shimmering with promise. Marcus had once reached for the stars. Ara had built a constellation. "This is my throne," she whispered. The words, a vow. She turned back to the crowd, her scarf fluttering in the evening breeze. No longer a shadow, no longer hidden, but a creator stepping fully into her light. Her legacy was not in Marcus's ruin, but in the voices she had raised, the lives she had touched, the murals that would outlast both fame and failure. The city hummed, alive with her truth. Ara stood beneath her mural's glow, free at last. Her story was not an ending, but a beginning. A call to build your crown unapologetically, relentlessly. On the vast canvas of her life, Ara had painted not just victory, but freedom, and the world would never forget.